Medea, welcome to the show today. It's that time from the guy. It's knotlocks, and I think I'm just gonna do a reaction video today to Lazy Dread's newest video titled root flipping ? I haven't seen it yet, and this is an interesting video because this channel, knotlocks, was started from that root flipping technique known as interlocking. So let's see what Lazy Dreads has got to say about it.
Greetings, salutations, hello! Today we're going to talk about root flipping.
Yeah, Lazy Dreads!
Okay, so today's topic is a bit of an interesting one in that I can't recall ever seeing a dreadlock website or a dreadlock guide describing or promoting root flipping in a positive way. I can't recall ever coming across anywhere that sort of actively encourages root flipping, and yet there are so many people, myself included, that at some point in time has tried to root flip their dreadlocks. Root flipping is something that sort of emerges out of those
So basically, I'm not sure where he was looking for this information, but if you go to black beauty salons, that's the only place you're gonna find information or pricing on interlocking. He's right though, I never found any information on it myself. That's why I kind of started the knotlocks channel, to get some info on it out there, but it's a hard topic to get information on.
Stressful early weeks and months when your roots are super loose and they just look like they're growing out. They can be very trying times. It can require a lot of patience to get through those early weeks and months when it looks like your roots are just sort of growing out and becoming unlocked and not progressing in any sort of positive way. A lot of people can be tempted to go in and try and fix those roots in any way possible, encourage them to lock up, because they're sort of aware that it doesn't look good or feel good, and it's a difficult time to get through. And a method that a lot of people seem to sort of discover on their own is something that is referred to as root flipping. Root flipping involves taking the tip of a dreadlock that has a loose root, getting that tip, taking it down to the root, passing it through the middle of the root and pulling the whole dreadlock through. This can give instant gratification in that it feels like you've instantly tightened that root. It pulls the whole dreadlock down, it reduces the overall loose length that you have, and it makes everything look and feel tighter. You feel like you've done a good job, you give yourself a pat on the back, everything seems like it's going well. The problem with root flipping, and the reason that I don't recommend root flipping, is that it doesn't actually work.
No.
What actually happens when you pass a dreadlock back through its own root is that you take that dreadlock, you pass it to the middle of the root, you then split that root in half where the dreadlock comes through the middle, and those two halves in the process get twisted. They get twisted in opposite directions.
Right.
The more that you root flip, the more those two halves get twisted. So things are technically actually tighter. You've really twisted those two halves tight and it feels tight, but you've not made the roots tighter in a positive way. You've not tightened them in the way that you want them to be tighter.
I think with that being said, if you look at your dreads after you've done like a fresh interlocking, you might notice the white buds, hair follicles that show up on your roots and like work their way up the dreads, and I'm pretty sure that's where it's caused from. The main source of that problem is from that, as well as I've noticed it shows up when you crochet hook the roots to make them tighter. It brings up all the hair follicles, and you see that in your locks.
You would want dreadlock roots to be tight in a way that, you know, they're one solid knotted up lump and not two twisted halves. So what originally starts out as seeming like a good idea, roots looking tight, feeling tight, as time goes by you begin to see that you may have made a wrong turn somewhere in that the roots start to grow out split. Because when those two halves are split and twisted, they cannot knot in the same way as they would have done if you'd have left them alone. They cannot continue to mature while they're so tightly twisted, because they're just sort of twisted into twists and they don't knot together. They're not loose enough to form new knots. So instead of having a loose patch that eventually forms into dreadlocks, you can be sat there and sort of realize that your roots are now in a Y shape. So you've got dreadlock, 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 Y-shaped roots where the section is split in half.
Yeah, well, that happens because you're going the same direction. If you are like root flipping, to do it correctly, you have to go in like a cross-directional pattern. Dimensional. So you gotta warp to the next dimension to root flip your hair. No, you gotta cross hatches. So it's like 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, That way you avoid that Y, because that Y that he's mentioning here is the biggest mistake you can make with interlocking your dreadlocks.
And you feel like, it's not really working. So I get a lot of questions where people will send me messages saying, my roots are growing out all twisted and split. What shall I do? And then I would say, did you try to pass the tip back through the root? And then a little time passes and they say, yeah, but I thought I was doing something good for them. And no, unfortunately not. The roots will grow out, split and twisted, and a lot of people can then be tempted to go back in and root flip again and again just to tighten them back up, because they, instead of now having to worry about having loose roots, they have to worry about loose split roots, and then trying to fix it, and we end up with this negative cycle that repeats and repeats, and nothing is really progressing in a positive manner.
Okay.
It's not the end of the world. As
No.
I said, there's a huge number of people that have discovered independently root flipping at some period of time, myself included, and it's not like the end of the dreadlocks, it's not the end of the maturity of the dreadlocks, but it is a serious speed bump. To get past it, you have to stop root flipping, first of all, and then you have to wait. There's a lot of waiting. You have to wait for those roots to grow out sufficiently enough for the twists to become less twisted. The more the roots grow out, the sort of longer length that the twist is over, so they become less and less twisted, and eventually they become untwisted enough that at the root they will start to lock again and begin to get closer to maturity. And so over the long period, if you give them long enough, the roots will lock up.
But you might want to reverse that. You might want to reverse the root flip first, because that's how you undo the Y. Is you got to pass it through in reverse until it goes back to the hair being untwisted.
And so over the long period, if you give them long enough, the roots will lock up and mature properly again, and they will start to lock up as the dreadlock grows. And you can get past it, but you haven't really gained anything. So it's like, over the short term, your dreadlocks seem like they're loose. You try and fix it with the root flipping, and then instead of spending the next weeks or months waiting for the dreadlocks to mature, you have to wait that time for the dreadlocks to untwist, and then the same amount of time again waiting for them to mature again. So you've kind of significantly increased the amount of time that it takes for the roots to lock up. You can also be left with a sort of really solid lump, solid bump on the dreadlock where the dreadlock has been root flipped, where everything's been twisted through. And that is not something that goes away. It can be kind of left as a scar on the dreadlocks, a sort of constant reminder that root flipping was not a good idea, and sort of reminder not to root flip again.
And my whole set of locks, my first set of locks was entirely made up of scarred tissue. Scarred dreadlock tissue, which is like, I knew what I was doing, but I also saw that I was working. It was like that instant gratification like he mentioned. But to be honest, I was just that obsessed with locks at the time, and I wanted my hair done, so I figured it out. So I proceeded doing it in that way. But one thing that he hasn't mentioned about root flipping your locks is that when you are in the root flip or the interlock, you're more susceptible to getting mildew and mold buildup in your locks. I'm telling you this from firsthand experience. I've been there before. That's why I lopped off the last locks. Because when you're twisting the hair, like Lazy Dreads mentioned here, you're creating like almost like a pocket for mildew to catch. If opposed to having your hair just matte naturally, there's no really pockets that the water can just run through your hair. But when you have these twists and folds in your interlocks and these scars, it cuts off like water circulation, so to say, going through your hair, and shampoo and conditioner, like shit can get stuck in there and it starts to grow. So I chopped off my interlocks at that point, and at this point I haven't done any interlocking on these locks. So it's a totally different journey. I still have done some crochet hooking on them, but no root flipping whatsoever. I've thought about doing like one or two just to show, but don't really need to. Let's continue watching.
Again. To conclude, so while root flipping may give the instant appearance and feeling of tightness, the results will be temporary, and over the long term you can actually find that you've significantly increased the amount of time that it takes for the dreadlocks to actually knot up, mature and lock properly on their own, and increase the amount of time that it's going to take for those roots to be able to lock new growth as it comes in, and for dreadlocks to grow out naturally. When in doubt, leave roots alone.
Okay, so yeah, when in doubt, leave them alone. That's cool. I know a lot of you guys on this channel are in fact interlocking. Just take this video as a forewarning. You know that it can be dangerous. I know many people will disregard it and still go ahead with it anyways. That's like what I did. That's why this channel is kind of here. But we all learn at our own pace. This was a kind of a neat concept of a reaction video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And I will also be doing another video tomorrow, I guess. So until then, stay happy, stay nappy. It's that guy, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. So I'm gonna sign off. Talk to you one. Peace.